Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at all of the intervals or scale degrees that make up the key of C. But before we just jump in and start playing these patterns on the guitar fretboard, let's pause for a moment and really understand what it means when we say the key of C. What does that mean? What is the key of C? What that means is that the C note is the tonal center of gravity. The chromatic scale is made up of 12 notes, but if the patterns you're playing, the scales or melodies or chords, gravitate towards C as the focal point, that is the key of C. So looking at the guitar fretboard, for example, this is where the C note appears in different positions up and down the frets and strings. And to naturally move between these different C notes, musicians play interval patterns like stepping stones that help them move from one C note to the next. And the most natural pattern that forms, that's pleasing to the ears and flows smoothly from one C to the next, is an interval pattern called the C major scale, which includes notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. When we fill in the fretboard with these additional notes, you see little pathways form between the various C positions that are possible on the instrument. And this major scale sounds like this. That's moving from low to high, or from high to low, it sounds like this. This major scale pattern naturally resolves to the C note on either end. The C notes serve as natural bookends on this pattern. Or like I say, it's the tonal center of gravity, where the pattern naturally leads up to C or naturally falls down to C. C is the destination moving in either direction. Now on the guitar fretboard, each individual string is like its own chromatic scale, the 12 notes of the chromatic scale rising up the frets. It's like a stack of chromatic scales on top of each other. And when you play this pattern of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C on the different strings, you can see how when you stack the strings like this, segments of the major scale overlap, which allows you to play the C major scale in different positions on the fretboard. Like this segment, starting on the 3rd fret, 5th string, or this segment higher up, starting on the 8th fret, 6th string, or in the middle on the 5th fret, 3rd string, and in various other positions as you slide your hand up the fretboard or down the fretboard. Now, like I say, the chromatic scale is made up of 12 notes. The C major scale is just a subset of the chromatic scale. So while the entire fretboard is filled with notes on each string and in each fret, when we look at the major scale, we're focusing on only a few of the notes within the chromatic scale. Now, the major scale is so popular and so fundamental to music theory that musicians often play this pattern using another set of labels as well, and that is using numbers instead of letter names. These numbers are called scale degrees, and we could play these same 8 notes of the major scale by counting up from 1 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the 8th note is just a higher C, so 8 and 1 are the same thing. Or we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, resolving back to 1 again. And just as we did when we were looking at the notes using letter names for labels, we can play this same pattern, the major scale pattern, using the number or scale degree labels as well, up and down the fretboard like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Again, the chromatic scale includes 12 notes and therefore 12 different intervals. And using number labels, these intervals also have their own scale degrees, marked by numbers as well. Now, if you're new to music, or even if you've been playing for a while and you're somewhat familiar with music theory, this is admittedly a lot of symbols to wrap your head around. All the different letter name labels and scale degree numbers to describe all the possible pitches and intervals that you could play on the guitar. So to cut through all the clutter of these traditional alphanumeric characters of letters and numbers that musicians usually use to visualize musical patterns, we're going to use something else instead. We're going to use color to picture these same interval and note patterns on the guitar fretboard, which look like this. Now, admittedly, this matrix of colors on the fretboard can look a bit scrambled at first, and even counterintuitive if you don't know what you're looking at. But as I explain in this video, this array of colors is actually super organized and natural and explains how musical patterns really work. And it's formed like this. You basically take the 12 keys in music, apply the color wheel, which visually mirrors the audible connections between keys in music, and then rearrange this pattern into the chromatic scale, the 12 fundamental notes that you play on any instrument. And since the 6 strings of the guitar are individual chromatic scales, this array of colors, when the guitar is in its standard tuning, ends up looking like this. And when you fade some of the notes in this pattern to focus just on the notes of the C major scale, that is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or intervals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, this major scale, or the key of C, looks like this. And using color, we can pick out this scale, just like before, in any position on the guitar fretboard. Only now it's a little easier to find the notes, since they visually pop in color. Now, in another video, I explain in detail the benefit of using these colors, which is more than just making it easy to find the notes on the fretboard. They actually convey what the letter names and scale degree numbers are trying to communicate, but more intuitively and seamlessly. That is, the fixed nature of pitches and the variable nature of intervals. Again, I geek out in another video, and the link on that is below. But there's an even cooler advantage of using the colors, and that is that the underlying symmetry and geometry of color perfectly mirrors the geometry of intervals in music. And we can use this geometry to see and really pick apart all of the intervals that are possible in the key of C, or any key for that matter. And these interval patterns guide your fingers like little paths across the fretboard, giving you a natural, logical way to navigate the instrument, so you can move with confidence from one string or fret to the next, in any direction. Now, in my fretboard geometry series, we look at how these interval patterns can be divided into 6 basic groups that are symmetrical across all 12 keys. It's awesome. But in this video, we're going to focus specifically on the key of C to play and hear and really feel how these intervals help you move across the fretboard in the key of C. And though you'll find that each interval pattern doesn't necessarily sound musical on its own, combined, all of these geometric patterns inform the underlying order and logic of the guitar fretboard. And it's from these basic interval patterns that you build all other patterns in music in a given key, like scales, melodies, chords, and progressions. So let's go through each of these interval patterns one at a time in the key of C on the guitar fretboard. Now, the first pattern we're going to play in the key of C is between interval 1, or C, the red square, and its tritone, the green square, sharp 4/flat 5, or F sharp/G flat. Now again, that's a mouthful with all of the letter and number labels, but these two notes, 1 and sharp 4/flat 5, are really just complementary colors. They're polar opposites and sound very dissonant together. And they're easy to spot on the fretboard because they form stacks of complementary colors that rise up the guitar. And they sound like this. The next pattern is made up of intervals 1, C, or the red square, 4, F, the purple-red circle, and 5, G, the red-orange circle. And these intervals sound like this. When you look closely, every C note, interval 1, the red square, is flanked by intervals 4 and 5, either above or below it, respectively. So if we play this C note on the 3rd fret, 5th string, F is on the same fret, just above, and G is on the same fret, just below. Now there's a shift in the top 2 strings, so if we play this C note on the 5th fret, 3rd string, F is just above but shifted up a fret to the 6th fret, 2nd string, and G is on the 5th fret, 4th string. So G is just below, and F is above but shifted up 1 fret. But otherwise, this pattern is consistent up and down the fretboard. The next interval pattern includes C, the red square 1, E, the yellow square, or the major 3rd, and A flat, the blue square, or flat 6, minor 6th. Together, these three intervals in the key of C form a perfect triangle of primary colors, so they're easy to spot on the fretboard. When you fade all of the other notes, these intervals form stacks that slant to the left, like this. So starting on the open 6th string, the E, the pattern sounds like this. Then the next interval pattern, which is again symmetrical around interval 1, the C red square, includes the flat 3 or minor third, E flat, the blue purple circle, and interval 6 or the major 6th, A, the orange yellow circle. Together, these intervals form a kind of haunting or melancholy sound, which is explained by the tritones, the dissonant tritones that connect them, as I explain in this video. And here's how they sound in the key of C on the guitar fretboard. You can follow along with the diagram. Alright, then the next interval pattern is 1, C, the red square, 2, D, the orange square, and flat 7, or the minor 7th, B flat, the purple square. And together, these three intervals are part of a hexagon of whole step intervals. In fact, the chromatic scale is really made up of 2 hexagons of whole step intervals, one that's made up of all squares, and the other that's made up of all circles. But focusing again just on the key of C, these intervals have a bright, kind of happy sound. And you play them like this. And finally, the last geometric pattern in the key of C is made up of intervals 1, C, the red square, flat 2, or D flat, the green-blue circle, and 7, or B, the yellow-green circle. Both of these intervals flank the tonic, interval 1, and sound dissonant or fairly harsh with C, interval 1, because of their close connection with C's tritone, interval sharp 4/flat 5. And just like all the other geometric patterns, these intervals form a distinct arrangement up and down the strings. Combined, all of these half-step intervals form a dodecagon, also known as the chromatic scale. But in the key of C specifically, they're easy to play because they form half-step intervals up the strings like this. And these are basically the 6 geometric patterns that make up the key of C. So, like I said, these interval patterns on their own don't sound especially good. Some of them sound downright bad, actually. But combined, they form the intricate framework that is the music theory that underlies all of the patterns that you play in a given key, like scales and melodies and chords and progressions, and entire songs. So once you understand this underlying theory, the science behind music, then you can apply this science to the art of making songs. So understand the theory, then make songs. That's how it works. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and I will catch you in the next video.